Greetings, my dear friends. Today I approach you with a case that has long consumed my thoughts, and which I believe may pique your interest as well. The matter at hand concerns the Idaho murders, where Bryan Kohberger, age 28, stands accused of perpetrating a heinous act, namely sneaking into a home shared by students in close proximity to the university campus in Moscow, Idaho, and then proceeding to savagely stab 4 of them to death in the dark of night. I must admit that my investigation into Mr. Kohberger has led me down a most curious path. There is much to be unpacked regarding his background and the events leading up to the tragedy that unfolded. What drives a man to commit such unspeakable acts? It is a question that has plagued me, and one that I am determined to answer. I find it most intriguing that Mr. Kohberger was highly educated and had nothing on his criminal records prior to these events. It is a tangled web we weave, my friends, and I vow to unravel it one strand at a time. Today we embark on a journey that will take us through the mysterious and complex case of the Idaho murders. Before we dive into the specifics of the tragic night, it's essential to acknowledge that recent developments have made this case even more curious and difficult to comprehend. 2 survivors, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funke, were present in the house on the night of the murders. And while we have some insight into Dylan's testimony, we know very little about Bethany's. To gain a deeper understanding of this case, we'll examine Bryan Kohberger's past. And with the help of a 3D representation of the house, we'll explore the layout and discuss theories about where everyone was during the murders. However, I must warn you that some of the information may be distressing and the opinions shared are not facts, but rather theories based on publicly available information. So let us begin our journey and seek to uncover the truth behind this perplexing case. Bryan Kohberger was born on November 21, 1994. His childhood was marked by weight issues and bullying, until a dramatic transformation occurred during his senior year when he shed a staggering 100 pounds. This weight loss brought about a noticeable shift in his personality, as if a switch had been flipped. A friend from that time mentions he was rail thin, and it was after that weight loss that a lot of people noticed a huge change. Yet despite this newfound confidence, it appears that he still struggled with aggression and gaslighting towards his acquaintances, with one friend even recounting instances of physical violence. When Bryan would get kinda angry with him, he would gaslight him and get physically aggressive, and added that Kohberger would put her brother in chokeholds. Another friend claims that Bryan started using heroin. "You just saw him becoming more self-destructive," she said. "He really stayed secluded." One of the friends from his childhood mentioned something that called my attention, and will later come back to the story. This past friend mentioned that Bryan was always eager to be seen as dominant. There is reason to believe that Mr. Kohberger was making strides towards a better future in the years following his high school graduation. Reports indicate that he attended Northampton Community College in Pennsylvania, while also working as a security guard for the Pleasant Valley School District. It is perplexing to hear, knowing the current state Kohberger is in, that at the time he confided in his friend Bree about his desire to get sober and make a change in his life. "I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna be better," he allegedly told her. Such words of determination and hope are a glimmer of light that would later seem to have turned into complete darkness. The last time Kohberger was seen by his acquaintance was at a friend's wedding in 2017. She reportedly hugged him and expressed her pride in his progress, telling him that he looked good. His friend Casey said at the time, "You look so good. I'm so proud of you." Bree and Casey say it appeared that Kohberger had a new focus, his studies in criminology. His goal was just to change the world for the good around him. He wanted to do something that impacted people in a good way, says Bree. People were not his strong suit, she added. And I think through his criminology studies, he was really trying to understand humans and trying and understand himself. As we continue our investigation into the unsettling and disturbing mind of Bryan Kohberger, we must now turn our attention to his alleged online presence on the website Tapatalk, previously known as Youku. Even though he didn't use his actual name and the account is under the username Exar, a link was established to Bryan due to a matching email address that appeared in a 2009 leak of accounts from an online payment company. Mr. Kohberger purportedly used this platform and many other aliases to conceal himself, now providing us with further insight into his thoughts and how he was perceived by others in the online community. In its heyday, Tapatalk was a wildly popular site, providing users with easy access to thousands of web forums through a single platform. Here, Bryan would post about his mental and physical struggles, sometimes searching for solutions and other times merely seeking empathy from other online users. In one post he wrote, "My mind is never not on visual snow, and I always wonder what a normal person would be doing while I sit there and suffer. This whole thing has made me crazy. I feel like my life is pointless because people can think about times with parents/childhood memories and be happy, and I won't be able to." Visual snow is a persistent visual disturbance that can entirely obscure one's vision, with those who experience it often describing it as a tiny flickering that resembles television static. Some symptoms may include headaches, irritability, lethargy, and difficulty concentrating. Although the cause of the syndrome remains unknown, it may be linked to traumatic incidents that may have triggered the visual snow syndrome symptoms in Mr. Kohberger. Possible triggers for what is believed to be a neurological disorder include concussions, head trauma, and illegal drug use. "I know it was something that really bugged him," said Thomas Arntz, who was friends with Mr. Kohberger during high school, until they had a falling out. He was basically to the point where he was neurotic about it. Furthermore, Mr. Kohberger's online posts during his teenage years reveal a darker period of his life. He describes seeing a sickly, tired, useless, and stupid man when he looked in the mirror, believing that he did not deserve to live. He also regretted treating his father like dirt despite considering him a good man. The numerous mental health and physical issues seem to have never affected Bryan's academic performance, and he was able to get a master's degree in criminology and was a PhD student and teaching assistant at Washington State University's Pullman campus. He was even described by professors as brilliant, and one professor that helped him with his master's degree described him as the best student they ever had. As our investigation unfolds, I will journey to Kohberger's campus, which lies only a short 15-minute drive from Moscow, Idaho. There, I hope to glean a deeper understanding of the heinous crimes that have been committed. I find myself at the Seven Sirens Brewing Company, indulging in a glass of refreshing water. Admittedly, this establishment does not particularly appeal to my taste, for I am not one to partake in the consumption of beer. Nevertheless, I am present here for a purpose of great importance. You see, Kohberger was known to frequent this establishment, and his behavior towards the female employees has piqued our interest. This information holds a crucial significance as we proceed with this case, so I implore you to pay close attention. According to Serelnek, the bar's owner, Kohberger would sit alone at the bar, observing and watching, but it was his interactions with the female employees and patrons that stood out. He would inquire about their presence at the brewery and their place of residence. If their response was not to his liking, he would become agitated. In one instance, he even went so far as to call an employee a derogatory name when she declined to answer his invasive questions. Serelnek was compelled to confront Kohberger during his final visit to the brewery. He approached him and said, "Hey Bryan, welcome back. We appreciate you coming back. I just wanted to talk to you real quick and make sure that you're going to be respectful this time and we're not going to have any issues." The alleged murderer was taken aback by this unexpected exchange. As we navigate through this case, it is imperative to keep this pertinent information in mind. Every detail, no matter how small, can aid us in our quest for justice. In the upcoming tapes, I will regale 3 events that hold paramount significance and will provide a greater understanding of the unspeakable horrors that transpired. Firstly, it has been alleged that Bryan delved into the modus operandi of ex-convicts in order to complete a criminology assignment on Reddit through a disturbing survey. Such actions are highly concerning and warrant further investigation. Secondly, 1 month prior to the tragic murders in Idaho, a police officer's body camera recorded an encounter with the alleged perpetrator after a routine traffic stop. Lastly, law enforcement officials had a conversation with one of the victims prior to the harrowing incident. This communication could potentially hold valuable insights into the perpetrator's motives and movements leading up to the heinous crime. a disturbing discovery has come to light regarding suspect Bryan Kohberger's online activity. 5 months prior to the heinous murders of 4 young individuals in Idaho, Kohberger posted on the XCon subreddit, seeking the participation of criminals in a research project aimed at understanding how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime. The survey, titled "Research Participation Needed," asked participants about their demographics, as well as the actions and emotions they experienced during the commission of their crimes. Questions such as, did you prepare for the crime before leaving your home? Why did you choose that victim or target over others? And what was the first move you made to accomplish your goal? Were among those asked. Additionally, he inquired about how criminals leave the scene and whether they acted alone. While this survey may appear innocent in the context of a criminology degree, it takes on a much more sinister tone given the circumstances of Kohberger's recent arrest on suspicion of quadruple homicide. Fascinating. The seemingly innocuous encounter between Bryan Kohberger and a patrol officer captured on body cam offers a glimpse into his character. The video depicts Kohberger, a criminal justice graduate student, getting pulled over for running a red light at the Washington State University campus. What strikes me is his demeanor, cordial and respectful, a far cry from the heinous crimes authorities accuse him of committing. In the footage, Kohberger explains that he was forced to make an illegal turn due to a traffic jam. The officer then informs him of Washington state traffic laws and how he violated them. Kohberger accepts the officer's explanation, apologizing for asking too many questions and admitting he's from Pennsylvania and not familiar with the area's traffic laws. After checking his license and registration, the officer decides to let Kohberger go without issuing a ticket. Little did she know that a month later, Kohberger would be a suspect in the brutal slayings of 4 University of Idaho students. It's intriguing to ponder how such a friendly and cooperative individual could be capable of such heinous deeds. Newly uncovered video footage has come to light, shedding a new perspective on a previous encounter between police officers and the King Road residents, which took place almost 10 weeks prior to the horrific tragedy that ultimately transpired. In the footage, officers respond to a noise complaint and are greeted by Xana Kernodle, one of the house's inhabitants, who is seen sporting an orange sweatshirt and shorts. The officers issue a stern warning to Kernodle about the noise, cautioning her against any further disturbances. What's particularly intriguing is that this was not the first time law enforcement had been summoned to the house that evening. As the media previously reported, police body cam footage captured officers knocking on the door several hours earlier. 2 unknown men descended the stairs to meet the officers, but none of the home's occupants were present. Eventually, Madison Mogen, a former resident who would later be among the victims, appeared and apologized for the noise. It is important to note that these details are not directly linked to the heinous events that occurred at the off-campus dwelling. Nevertheless, they present a stark contrast between the suspect's life, Kohberger, with his purported loneliness, depression, and troubling interactions with women, and the lives of the victims who appeared to revel in socializing, maintained a tight-knit circle of friends, and were beloved members of both their sorority and the university community. This striking disparity will no doubt be relevant as we continue to investigate the events that led up to the murders. Ladies and gentlemen, it is imperative that I introduce you to the individuals of utmost importance to the case at hand. These individuals are at the core of the investigation, and it is essential that we pay close attention to them. Among the 4 fatal victims, we have Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Kaylee Goncalves. These young individuals had promising futures, but their lives were cut tragically short. Additionally, we have 2 survivors who were in the house at the time of the murders. These 2 young girls are Mortensen and Bethany Funke. They were lucky to escape with their lives, and their testimonies are crucial to piecing together the events of that fateful night. Let's now delve deeper into the layout of the crime scene at 1122 King Road, Moscow, Idaho. The house had 3 floors. On the first floor, we find the front door, opening to an empty room on the right, followed by a hallway, and Bethany's room at the end of the hallway. To the left of the entrance was a staircase that led up to the second floor. Now let me clarify, since the house was situated on a hill, the second floor was also at ground level. We can then see there's a patio with a sliding door that opens to a kitchen, followed by Dylan's bedroom. Turning left, we come across the living room, the staircase we saw on the first floor, and continuing left, we find a bath in Xana's bedroom. Going back to the entrance, we see a second staircase that leads to the third floor. On the third floor, we find another hallway. To the left, we have Goncalves' bedroom, and to the right, we have a bathroom, followed by Mogen's bedroom. I will now proceed to narrate the events of the 12th and 13th of November 2022. I must warn you, the following information is graphic and may be distressing for some listeners. On this fateful night, 4 young roommates and friends studying at the University of Idaho were brutally murdered in their sleep, and 2 others survived. On that fateful night, Goncalves and Mogen, lifelong best friends, visited the Corner Club bar in Moscow, according to the Moscow police. At the same time, Chapin and Kernodle, who were dating, went to the Sigma Chi house. And the 2 other house inhabitants were Bethany and Dylan, who, as you'll see in the following tapes, was in the room closest to the murderer entrance. Now let me take you through a timeline of events that happened that night. At 9 p.m., Xana and Ethan were seen by their roommate at a frat house. Later at 10 p.m., Kaylee and Madison were seen on camera at a local bar. Moving ahead to Sunday, November 13th, at 1:30 a.m., Kaylee and Madison were seen on camera at the food carts. At 1:45 a.m., Xana and Ethan were reported to have departed for or returned to the King Road residence by BF. An individual reported transporting Kaylee and Madison back to the King Road residence at 1:56 a.m. By 2 a.m., all residents, plus Ethan, were at the King Road residence, according to DM and BF. At 2:42 a.m., Bryan's phone utilized cellular resources near his apartment in Pullman. Just 2 minutes later, at 2:44 a.m., a white sedan believed to be Bryan's was observed by WSU surveillance cameras traveling south through Pullman. At 2:47 a.m., Bryan's phone utilized cellular resources indicating he was traveling south through Pullman, which is consistent with the movements of the white sedan. However, at 2:48 a.m., Bryan's phone stops reporting to the network, implying the phone was in an area without cellular coverage. The network was disabled, for example, airplane mode, or the phone was turned off. At 2:53 a.m., the white sedan believed to be Bryan's was observed traveling southeast from Pullman, Washington, towards SR 270, which connects Pullman, Washington to Moscow, Idaho. The white sedan is seen on camera in Moscow at 3:26 a.m., approximately 1.3 miles from the King Road residence. Finally, at 3:29 a.m., the white sedan is first seen on camera on King Road. The report said the sedan initially makes 3 passes by the King Road residence before 4 a.m., with each time the vehicle seems to leave through Walenta Drive. I must draw your attention to 2 important statements made by the survivors of the King Road residence murders, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funke, during their interviews with the police. According to them, all the occupants of the house were present by 2 a.m. and were either asleep or in their rooms by 4 a.m. with the exception of Xana Kernodle. She had received a DoorDash order at approximately 4 a.m., and the delivery driver who reported this information has been identified by law enforcement. A crime scene photo reveals a DoorDash order with Kernodle's name near the kitchen sink. However, it may not be the actual order she received on the night of the events. The delivery driver has since been cleared as a suspect, but please keep this detail in mind, as it may become significant later in the investigation. Let me now detail the statements made by Dylan Mortensen, one of the survivors. Mortensen said she went to sleep in her bedroom. At around 4 a.m., she woke up to what she thought was Kaylee Goncalves playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms on the 3rd floor. Soon after, Mortensen heard what she thought was Goncalves saying, "There's someone here." A forensic download of Xana Kernodle's phone records indicated that it could have been Kernodle who made that comment. As her phone indicated, she was likely awake and using the TikTok app at approximately 4:12 a.m. Mortensen then opened her door a second time when she heard what she thought was crying coming from Kernodle's room. Mortensen then heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you," At 4:17 a.m., a security camera located at 1112 King Road, a residence to the northwest of 1122 King Road, picked up distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper followed by a loud thud. A dog can also be heard barking numerous times starting at 4:17 a.m. It is important to note that the security camera is less than 50 feet from the west wall of Kernodle's bedroom. Dylan Mortensen's account of the events that occurred on the night of the murders is crucial to our investigation. She reported seeing a figure dressed in black clothing and a mask, which covered the person's mouth and nose, walking towards her bedroom. This person was male, stood at a height of 5'10" inches or taller, had bushy eyebrows, and was athletically built. The male walked past Dylan as she stood frozen in shock towards the kitchen and left through the sliding glass door. Mortensen did not recognize the person, and after seeing the male, she locked herself in her room. Her statement, along with reviews of forensic downloads of records from Bethany and Dylan's phones and video of a suspect, lead us to believe that the homicides occurred between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m. Having examined the details presented in the latest affidavit, let us now embark on the task of reconstructing the sequence of events and gaining a deeper understanding of the unfolding tragedy based on the actions of the perpetrator. Bethany was sleeping on the first floor. Dylan, Xana, and Ethan were on the second floor, while Kaylee and Madison were on the third floor, and the dog was in Kaylee's room. The suspect's movements within the house can be traced through the security cameras. He entered through the back sliding door into the kitchen and paused at the stairs to look around before turning and going upstairs. He checked the first bedroom, but it was empty, and he woke up the dog. He then proceeded to Madison and Kaylee's bedroom, where he used an Army Ranger knife to stab them both. Downstairs, Dylan was sleeping, but the noise from upstairs woke her up. She got up and went to the door, but allegedly saw nothing there. The suspect then went to Xana's room, and there was a thud, and some whimpering cries that were later caught on a camera located outside the house. Dylan heard this and looked outside her door for the third and last time. She saw the suspect walk right past her and leave. We have a description of the suspect from Dylan, who described him as thin but with a muscular build, with bushy eyebrows and using a mask to cover the bottom half of his face. It's a chilling and disturbing account, but it gives us a starting point to work from. As I delved deeper into the investigation, certain details started to capture my attention, like the peculiar nature of the door dash. I couldn't help but wonder what led the killer to target this particular home, and why they chose the specific rooms they did, sparing some lives while brutally taking others. What perplexed me even more was the absence of any sounds or commotion from within the house. Given the presence of a dog and the loud noises captured by the camera near Xana's bedroom, it's difficult to imagine that there wasn't some sort of struggle or confrontation. And yet, no one in the house reported hearing anything out of the ordinary. As I considered the circumstances surrounding the crime, one theory began to emerge. Given that the killer chose a Saturday night in a neighborhood known for its lively party scene, it's possible that many of the noises were simply dismissed as the rowdy antics of young people coming and going. But there was something else in the police documents that caught my attention and left me with more questions than I would have ever imagined. On the morning of November 13th, the two survivors, Dylan and Bethany, called friends over to their house because they thought one of the victims on the second floor had passed out and wasn't waking up. Then, police said that at 11:58 a.m., a 911 call from one of the roommates' phones requested help for an unconscious person. Responding officers then found the four victims. Authorities said they do not believe anyone at the house at the time of the 911 call was involved in the murders. We can only speculate, but the reasons for the delay in reporting the murders may never be fully understood. Dylan and Bethany may have been in shock, too intoxicated or under the influence of drugs to realize the severity of the situation, or simply unsure of what to do in such a tragic and horrific event. Regardless, they are also victims of this heinous crime and will have to live with the aftermath for the rest of their lives. However, I cannot help but ponder the significance of the dog's barking, the noises captured by the cameras, and the reported statements of someone being here, and all the other disturbing details that transpired. It is difficult to reconcile the fact that so much time elapsed before police intervention or even a text message was sent. The enormity of this tragedy is truly heartbreaking. Several weeks after the tragedy, authorities arrested Bryan Kohberger at his parents' home in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania. Following his capture, Kohberger was extradited from Monroe County to Lata County, Idaho, where he has remained in custody at the Lata County Jail just a mile away from the heinous crime scene. As the investigation unfolds, court documents recently released to the public reveal that several items were seized from the Kohberger family home in Pennsylvania, including 2 knives, a Glock 22 pistol, black face masks, clothing, and a note addressed to Bryan's father. While police did not confirm whether they believe either knife was used in the murders, one of the knives was described as a pocket knife. Notably, the murder weapon previously identified by investigators was a fixed-blade knife. It's worth noting that many Americans possess guns, knives, and dark clothing, and the items found in Kohberger's home are not necessarily incriminating. However, the discovery of black masks is the most troubling element of all, as the killer seen in the Idaho student house was reportedly wearing a mask. But it's important to remember that eyewitness accounts are not always reliable, and investigators will need to determine how the black masks found in Kohberger's home compare to the description given by Dylan Mortensen, one of the surviving roommates who reported seeing a masked man wearing black on the night of the murders. If Kohberger is found guilty of the murders, questions will undoubtedly arise as to why he had these weapons in his possession and whether he had plans to harm others. Ladies and gentlemen, the case of the Idaho murders has left many theories swirling in its wake. Was it a premeditated attack? Did the killer plan this for months? There are reports of Bryan Kohberger being seen around the University of Idaho, so much so that some thought he was a student there. There have been whispers of him being an incel, a man who feels involuntary celibacy and resents women for it. His strange personality, alleged misbehaviors in bars, and his rumored use of the pseudonym Papa Rogers on Facebook only add fuel to the fire. This is particularly chilling given the notorious Elliot Rogers, known as the King of Incels, who wrote a manifesto about the evil of women rejecting him. However, we must remember that most of these threads are mere speculation and not factual evidence. It remains to be seen how things will unfold in court. We eagerly await the release of new evidence, including DNA results and the contents of Kohberger's computer and other devices. What we do know is that Bryan Kohberger now faces a lifetime behind bars or even the death penalty. It's a somber reminder of the devastating impact that a single individual's actions can have on so many lives. Let us keep the victims and their loved ones in our thoughts and prayers during this difficult time. During my investigation, I came across websites dedicated to supporting the victims and their families. In a small way, we can offer assistance during this tragic time. I have personally donated and encourage anyone who can spare some change to do the same. The links to these websites will be provided below this recording. As for me, I will take a moment to sit in the stillness of the night and reflect. This case has deeply affected me, and sleep has been difficult to come by. But I take comfort in the knowledge that we are doing what we can to help bring justice to those who have been affected. Thank you for keeping me company, my dear friends. I will return again soon.